What do a nun from Gower, Missouri, and a Nacho Libre have in common?
They could both be saints. Welcome to Time Sweeps. That might be the most fucking succinct we have been in fucking forever.
I am back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Time Sweeps. We're here to talk about the Catholic Church in Gower, Missouri, to be specific.
In Gower, Missouri, we have a nun, Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster, and she has been up for the bidding to the diocese of the Kansas City St. Joseph area for possibly being a saint.
So she died she was 95 when she died.
Yeah.
She died 4 years ago, and today I think today is the 4th year anniversary.
Is that today?
I think it's
I didn't
today.
have that when I was researching.
I heard when I was watching videos this upcoming Monday, which I assume is this Monday because they just started doing this stuff last Friday. So I think today is as of recording is the 4th year anniversary of her dying or being buried. And she wasn't embalmed.
Yeah, she was not embalmed, and she was placed in a simple wooden coffin. I couldn't find anything else of, like, if she was put in a crypt or in a vault, entombed underground type of thing.
She was underground.
But just, like, dirt or, like, vaulted.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're saying. I think it was just dirt, if I remember what I was reading. Because there was mold. I mean, I guess mold could have grown, but there was mold on her, and that's the only thing they cleaned off of her was a thin layer of mold on her clothes, and not even on her skin, on her clothes.
And the clothes looks pretty good for being,
And they said her clothes were not fancy at all.
Yeah, it looks like just nun attire.
But it wasn't even like high quality.
It was just
fabric.
A habit,
they said
black.
And so they dig her up, and she has not, she's not decomposed at all.
Well, she's very little. There's a few things that you can tell just from a dead body being a dead body.
Right.
There's small decomposition. But for 4 years, no embalming, it looks great.
They say it takes 5 years for someone to be complete skeleton.
Or it can.
Or that's like the
average. Depending on the situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's for embalmed people, but I'm saying like for normal people, non-embalmed, it takes 5 years, and you're 4 years into this thing. You're going to be basically bones.
Yeah, inside of a coffin,
right.
In this case.
Yeah.
Like if you're just placed into the dirt and nature can take its course,
I'm sure it'd probably go faster than 5 years.
It doesn't take that long at all, probably at most.
Careful how you say that one.
Well, not at most, because it really depends, honestly.
There's a lot of biology of the person going into it, as well as the soil mixture and the living things around it.
Yeah.
The way I was about to say, like, being put just directly in dirt was about to be a horrible way to phrase it that I don't think I want to start this episode with after mentioning the nun that we have in Gower.
And I would also like to preface, if we say anything freaking stupid, it's because, I mean, I'm not really all that religious. Wyatt's not really all that religious. Gary is probably the most religious out of all three of us, and he doesn't really go to church.
I've done my research into this. I'm trying to avoid saying anything that would be consistently.
So it says 3 weeks to several years for a body to completely decompose.
Just raw.
That's what it just says. I assume that's an
in
average.
The dirt.
So I assume in the dirt with no skeleton, with no your body was dumped into a hole. I assume that's the 3 weeks because there's things eating you, the
CSI
ground's
Miami
eating you.
style,
right? Yeah, just classic.
Yep, and I think the several years is probably you have a coffin or you're embalmed.
Just like a simple coffin.
Yeah. So, but it says the environment, the climate is also it varies with the climate because there might be bodies from the 1800s up in the cold places
that are still pretty okay for what that is.
Oh yeah, but there's also mammoths in the Arctic.
Right, well,
Siberia.
Well, Siberia, but in tundra-style areas,
Yeah, there's a point where it gets cold enough, then it just mummifies.
Yeah.
And then there's also places where it just gets hot enough, it mummifies.
But yeah, so she dug up, And then they have her body on display in the church.
And I think by now it has been taken off display from what it was like.
Well, I think they're gonna put her in a clear glass coffin.
Yeah, that was always the intention, as I understood it. They were going to have a shrine to her.
Altar.
Yeah,
Is what they said.
and I couldn't find exactly where that was, other than in St. Joe at an abbey's oratory.
Well, so my grandparents went, like the first day you could go,
Right.
and they like touched her, and they're not even Catholic. They're
I
just
mean, I
people.
kind of wanted to go.
They're just people. Like I don't even know if they're religious or not. Like they just went to go.
It's because it's kind of one of those things. It's like there's the morbid curiosity of anybody that's just like, I want to go see this
I wanna go
weirdness.
see a dead body.
And then there's the people who are like, this could be legitimately a miracle of God. I want to go see this.
It could be.
So you're getting a whole spectrum
Yeah.
of people just wanting to see it for whatever reason. Like, I know there was tons of people probably in like the oddity store community that went just to be like, look at this.
Well, and then the other big
to
thing
be a spectacle versus
right. The other big thing, other than the fact that she hasn't decomposed all that much from being in there for 4 years, is that she's up for sainthood.
yeah, that's
But
the big one.
apparently, as of Saturday, that paperwork, that process hasn't even started yet.
Correct.
As of Saturday. So,
As I looked into the way to become a saint,
Uh-huh.
it takes a long time, and there's a whole lot that goes into it.
do you have to die to be a saint?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as I found, you do have to be dead, and normally you just want me to start going into the specifications? So the first one is 5 years after death minimum for objective judgment, but the time frame can be waived, like Mother Teresa was 2 years after death. And her process overall from, just being not canonized to
Mhm.
becoming a saint only took 9 years after her death. But there are 9 years after the process started, so a total of 11 years after death. But normally it's supposed to be 5 years after death minimum, so that way they can be objective about it, so that way all the emotions can be passed. So that way they can be like, okay, let's look at this person's credentials.
Yeah.
All the emotions can be passed, so it takes 5 years for there to be no emotion about a dead body.
Apparently. So that way you don't mourn for them. It's
Yeah.
so that way you can objectively look at their past. And then number 2 is a servant of God. Bishop of the diocese where the person died opens an investigation, and evidence is gathered for the person's life, deeds, and so on like that. Bishop asks the congregation for the causes of saints. That department takes it to the Pope for acceptance. Once accepted for consideration, the person is a servant of God. That's when they can be investigated by the church itself as a concept versus just the diocese and the bishop being like, okay, do we have something that we could take to the congregation for the causes of saints? Which, this is a whole bureaucratic thing I didn't understand until looking this up. I didn't know there was so much bureaucracy involved in becoming a saint. In
I thought it was
retrospect,
just someone who's
Vatican
like-
is all just
yeah,
bureaucracy.
not exactly like that, but like I knew it was a process, but I didn't know that there was literally a department
I didn't
going to
know you-
another department, and it's all overseen by the Pope,
It's one of
technically.
the Vatican is one of the longest running organizations in history. I mean, it probably.
Well, yeah.
So like, there's like hella processes.
Everything's recorded.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that there was, I thought it would
Did
just be
you
like a
happen to-
committee that they assemble versus just like there is a department, there is a building you go to and just, hey, yeah, does this person, can we?
Did you find the statistic for how many people that have been documented for this happening?
Oh, like how many saints there are?
Like, yeah, well, how many people have like been dug up and they're like have been?
Oh,
in,
for that? I didn't actually look that
well,
up.
they have a
So-
term for it I want to say untainted, but that's not the word.
Incorrupt.
Incorrupt.
Is what the Catholic Church refers
yeah.
it to.
And I think I remember hearing like it was either only a couple hundred or only about 100 people documented.
It's fairly rare
Something.
occurrence.
Right.
Yeah.
Connor, if you do have your laptop, no, never mind.
No, I don't.
It looked like a different bag.
No.
But yeah, that would have been like, look it up on there. 'Cause I just have my notes, so that
Right.
that statistic I have no idea.
All right, keep talking.
Then our third thing is the heroic virtue. The previous department scrutinizes the evidence of the person's holiness, signs that people have been drawn to prayer through their example. If the Pope approves the case, they are then titled venerable, or I think that's how it's pronounced. Venerable.
Venerable or venerable.
Venerable.
It really just depends on dialect. It's one of those words.
And then after that, we have verified miracles. The beatification? Another word that I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I kind of understand what it means.
Okay.
It's Beatification, beatification.
Yeah.
I don't know how else that could be pronounced.
Yeah.
But a miracle needs to be attributed prayers made to the individual after their death. Prayers being granted shows that the person is in heaven interceding with God on others' behalf. That's something I'm going to get into because I have the qualifications for miracles as well. Once that's been observed twice, the canonization process starts, and that's the 5th step. Finally, to state that the person is a saint, a second miracle needs to be attributed. Martyrs only need one verified miracle for canonization. I could not find more information in my minimal research about the whole concept of why martyrs only need one verified miracle, how many martyrs there are among saints, and so on like that. But in terms of miracles, Catechism of the Catholic Church defines it as a sign or wonder such as healing or control of nature, which can only be attributed to divine power. And then I was able to find examples of those things like healing, curing physical illness or impairments, exorcisms, casting out demons or unclean spirits, nature as in calming storms or just like figuring nature somehow. And then there's restoration, raising the dead or restoring life. In example, people that Pope John Paul I, a sudden healing of a Buenos Aires 11-year-old girl, severe brain inflammation, severe epilepsy, and septic shock. Doctors said she was approaching an almost certain death until her mother, nursing staff, and a priest began praying to the former pope, and then she was suddenly healed. Suddenly isn't, like instant, but like she started to, survive. And then Mother Teresa's first miracle was curing a woman of a lump growing in her abdomen, and I believe that happened somewhere in India. The second part, though, I'm not sure. The second was curing a man with brain abscesses. Mother Teresa was canonized, like I said, 9 years after her passing, so it was passing. There has to be 2 observed miracles, and then all the other statements.
2 observed? So how do you observe a miracle? Do you have to film it? Do you have to...
It has to be seen
maybe
as
it's just documented.
Yeah,
like
some type of witness situation. Like as in the Buenos Aires child.
Yeah.
They prayed to Pope John, is that what I said? Pope John I or something like that? Yeah, Pope John Paul I and sudden healing, that kind of thing. So just like the small process of however long that takes, I don't really I couldn't find any examples of exorcisms. I really tried. And instead I got the list of the most recent people that have been made into canonized saints by the current pope, and then I also found out that there's a list of 10,000 other saints.
Overall, so it says more than 100 incorrupt bodies have been canonized. Their bodies defining decaying process in Catholicism.
You know who could probably qualify as a saint?
Okay, so this says
Joan of Arc. Two documented miracles.
I was going to say, that's part of the thing. In some circles outside of Catholicism, I don't even know in Catholicism.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that she was Catholic, so I think that also plays into it. She was Catholic?
I'm pretty
sure. Because I thought that she was like the other rival thing in France.
Yeah.
I can't remember, because honestly, I don't remember being taught much about Joan of Arc in history class, and I've never looked much into her.
She said, "Oh, I can." God or like 2 angels came to me, and then give me troops, and I'll drive the Brits out of this area. And then she did, and then they were like, "Oh, a woman just did what we spent like several freaking years trying to do," and she talked to God. At that point in like Catholicism, the common person didn't talk to God. It was like kings and like
peoples of higher standing and the clergy and so on.
And especially being a peasant girl who just showed up and was like, "Hey, Dauphin, Mr. Dolphin Man, Mr. Dolphin Man, you're the rightful king." And then he's like, she just one-upped us in our own game. She's a witch. And then they burned her. And then whenever they burned her, her heart was still beating. I mean, now we know that that's like the heart of just something very hard to burn.
It says
sort of.
Yeah.
There are more than 250 incorrupt bodies of Catholic saints. Saint Agatha, her body was, and then it goes into people. And then the first incorrupt saint was Saint Cecilia, the first incorrupt saint. This famous effigy depicts the positions of her body was found in. Note the wound in her neck from her. Dang. But yeah. So there's more than 250 incorrupt saints.
And that's over a course of a long time.
A long since they started writing stuff down.
Right.
Which was...
It's been a while. I mean, we were writing stuff down before the Catholic Church existed. So.
Right.
Whether or not we can read it.
I mean, we can
read most of it.
There's a whole lot of it.
Yeah, we
If
can
it
read
survived,
most
we
of
can
it.
read it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can read cuneiform. Never mind.
Anyway.
But Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster, she died at the age of 95 in 2019.
Yeah.
She was the founder of the Benedictines of Mary, Queen of Apostles, established in Gower, Missouri in 1995. She was exhumed in April in preparation for construction of a planned shrine to her, and she was buried without embalming in a simple wooden coffin. And then, the body that resists normal decay after death is considered incorrupt. Not among the official signs of a miracle, though. There is any probable examples of a Catholic miracle happening with the sister at this moment, because I don't think anybody's been praying to her. But normally there's a process that follows of more and more people get like the sound of her.
It takes 2 miracles.
2 miracles. Someone has to be praying to said person, and then a miracle has to happen, and then it has to be observed. They have to be like, oh, this girl was dying. We prayed to insert this person. Days later, suddenly, quote unquote, I don't know how much time suddenly can consist of.
Yeah,
they were then better.
Yeah.
Or like if you're, performing an exorcism and
I
pray in the name of Sister
Like it
Wilhelmina.
can't just be that you have the common cold and you pray, and 2 days later the cold is gone. Like that's
it needs to be life threatening.
Yeah.
Like some crazy stuff. Like sepsis, you're in septic shock and you're going to die.
Leprosy.
There was a South Park episode that made fun of this. I'm not gonna bring it up as to not offend anyone, but dude, it cured Randy of alcoholism.
Well, I just think it's so weird that, or not weird, but like interesting that so many people are coming to like touch on her and like pray.
That's
only
part
to
of
her,
this weird process.
but pray with her, like to hold her and touch her, kiss her, like to pray with her. Like,
I mean,
it's very interesting to me that it's like
that's like this outside culture that exists from the bureaucratic system of canonization that people will come and see, and then they start to believe more, so they'll use her name in prayer, and then that's how the process kind of continues. Like, one of the most recent people to be canonized, or that I could find, he was canonized, I think, back in 2022. His process of canonization started in, like, the 70s.
Really?
And he wasn't processed as a saint until 2022. He died in 1951. He was born in, like, 18-something. He was a doctor in Italy. Because they have to get the ideas throughout there.
For that second miracle to happen, maybe.
Yeah, it took a while for the first one to happen, for it to be truly observed, and then a second one, and then they're like, oh, okay, and the Pope puts his stamp of approval on there. If I'm not mistaken, for it starting in the 70s, that's at least like 3 or 4 popes that's been waiting through. So this process can be lengthy. For all we know, this lady might not even get canonized ever, or
in our lifetime.
In our lifetime. Because there was a dude that was dead 1,500 years ago, and he got canonized within our lifetimes.
Really?
I don't remember his name, but I remember like when I was looking all this up, and they're like, this saint recently got canonized 1,500 years after his death. And I was, well, that doesn't have anything to do with Gower, Missouri, but all right.
He has been sitting in heaven being like, what the hell, guys?
Yeah, just sitting there like, y'all been praying to me.
Like, I'm trying
I've
my
been
damnedest.
helping. I'm up here sitting next to God, talking to him, being like, hey.
We're just cracking a beer, shooting the breeze.
This guy's got cancer. Help him.
Help him out.
Like, this guy has cancer.
But it's like, this process is very, I don't want to use the term hit or miss, but that's the best one I've got. It can take forever. It could never happen, and there's various tiers of it in the canonization process in case it continues. You could be a servant of God at, like, the minimum.
Let's be like our great-grandkids and be like, none from Gower, Missouri gets canonized. And it's gonna be like, man, that was about the time our grandfathers were alive.
And then they find a YouTube server, like, and then they're like they put it all in the Internet Archive, and they're like, let's see what they posted. Holy shit!
They talked about it. And it's one of those things. It's a weird process. It takes forever, and it could take very short time. Like Mother Teresa was very famous, so it took relatively little time. Or there was, like I said, I don't even know his name, and it took over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example.
Since you don't know his name, I wonder why it took several thousand years.
I'm also didn't look that far into the.
That's fair.
I looked up
that guy
Pope
that you don't
John
know the name
Paul
of
I.
is like the only person that people pray to somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there's a group of people, and that's their guy.
Like that, like they don't pray to anyone else. They're like, hey, can you please talk to God for us?
There's no other saint that they talk to. And also the terms of miracles and saints, I was very confused that there's a patron saint specifically of miracles. So it's just like, now hold on here a second. Any saint can be attributed to said miracles happening to get them into sainthood, but this one is the patron saint of miracles.
Did you talk about
Does
what
this hierarchy work?
Did you talk about what it takes to become a saint?
Yeah, the 5 major steps.
I didn't hear it. I was looking it up. Go say them again.
Yeah, I'll bring those back up real quick.
Because I was looking up and I wasn't listening all the way.
So we have the 5 years after death minimum, normally.
Yep.
The objective, watching out. The servant of God, a bishop, diocese, where the person died, opens the investigation. They can then be labeled a servant of God under the Pope's acceptance.
Okay.
Heroic virtue. The previous department scrutinizes the evidence of the person's holiness, signs, for example, drawn to prayer from their example, that person who has died. And then they are titled venerable, whatever. Then verified miracles, beatification. A miracle needs to be attributed through prayers made to that individual after their death, and then there's canonization. You need to have 2 miracles. Unless you're a martyr, then you only need 1 miracle to be a saint. In this question,
What's a martyr?
That's what I'm curious of. If that's someone who directly has spoken to God. So I'm curious if that would mean that Joan of Arc would be falling more under the concept of martyr.
Martyr is like someone who like beat a
martyr, and I'd probably look up
with a Y.
Yeah, martyr, martyr Catholicism. Just to be safe.
A person who is killed because of their religious or other beliefs.
So in this case, I don't think Joan of Arc would even respond to that kind of.
Interesting. That's the 5 steps to become a saint.
Yeah.
What constitutes a miracle?
Here, one second. Joan of Arc is the patron saint of France, honored as a defender. Well, that makes sense, Saint of France, but I wasn't sure if it's through the whole process type of thing.
So Joan of Arc is a saint?
Is a saint.
Okay. I was about to say, I was like, that makes sense.
Because I honestly can't remember.
Though she was killed by someone higher up in the church, but like, you know.
But I also don't know when she was canonized. I'll look that up as I'm talking. When was Joan of Arc's? No, not Joshua's last fight. No.
Joshua's last fight.
Yeah, when was Joan of Arc canonized? Google, go faster. 1920.
1920. Shit.
You can see, like, Joan of Arc was declared a martyr in 1909. She received the beatification, a recognition of a deceased person's entrance into heaven and their capacity to intercede on the behalf of individuals who pray in her name. In 1920, she was canonized by Pope Benedict.
Cumberbatch.
I don't remember what XV is. Is that 15?
What?
XV, is that 15 or 16?
XV is 15. Yeah, it's 15 because
Pope
V
Benedict
V is 5,
after.
X is 1.
Yeah. If it was
X is
before.
10. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Well, if it would have to be before that because then it wouldn't make a sense as a state. My point is I couldn't remember what V stood for.
5.
Here we are now.
You're a Star Wars fan, Wyatt. You should know this.
That doesn't mean anything.
You should know 1 through 9, okay?
You know what they also have?
What?
Names.
You should know 1 through 9 in Roman numerals at least.
But the miracles, there's 5 ways to be considered a miracle.
Uh-huh.
Healing, curing physical illness or impairment. Exorcisms, casting out a demon or unclean spirit. I don't know what unclean spirit means, but I kind of want to know. Like, I want to see an exorcism happen just before my eyes. Just
I
sit
was
there and
gonna
watch
make
one.
a joke that I'm not gonna make. And
And then there's like nature of like
What's
calming
an
a
unclean
storm.
spirit?
Yeah. What is that considered? Like, would that just be straight up just a mean ghost, or?
Unclean spirit is a
Okay,
common
I must
rendering
continue.
of a Greek. What is that word? And that word. Phenomena?
Phenomenon?
No.
P-N-E-U-M-A.
Let me see it.
Menume?
Phenomena.
Akorathon.
Jesus, what the?
Phenomena.
We are educated.
Pneuma
Akatharton.
Akatharton. Pneuma Akatharton. Akatharton. I don't know Greek.
That sounds like a
I don't know Greek.
Pokemon name.
That's because Pokemon is trying too hard.
Akatharton.
It translates to
sounds like a
Hebrew.
Freaking
Ruah.
Harry Potter spell.
Wuha. I don't know how to pronounce that in Hebrew either.
I don't know. It's not.
I try my best.
Unclean spirit is common rendering of the Greek something. Spaghettini.
Spaghetti.
That's what it. Septuagint. I don't know.
We get the idea, I guess. But there's also nature, as in like praying to someone to calm a storm. Like if there's like, I don't know what a storm consists of. I'm assuming not just like a little thunderstorm.
Well, and then I typed in
I'm thinking like
what's considered a
tropical
miracle?
storm.
This an act not fully explained by natural forces, but attributed to supernatural forces, mainly God.
God.
Yeah, there's a base form of
Mainly
miracle,
God.
and then there's the ones that Catholicism, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, considers things to become a saint. So, like, at one point I remember reading that someone was thinking that this could be considered a miracle, but not in the same way of, like, that can consider her to become a saint. Like, her body itself is a miracle, but not one that would allow her to be a saint. And I have only seen that talked about very shortly. But, like, yeah, calming storms. And then there's legitimate restoration, raising the dead or restoring to life.
That's a miracle.
Yeah, so, like, if you were, like, keeled over and died, and I
And someone's
started
like,
praying,
no.
and then all of a sudden the righteous hand of God had a saint talk to him and was like, okay, watch this. And then you're alive.
Hold my wine.
Do you ever wonder if like you've died during
That's
your sleep
water,
and
Dad.
then you've
No, it's
just
not.
come back to life?
Yeah, you've just never noticed.
Yeah. What if you just die in your sleep every night? What if you die every night and that's what sleeping is? And then
That's what the
you just come back to life.
That's what the Egyptians thought. That you mean in certain like historians thought like in like the written like they thought that you died every night and then rose back up, or like that, at least with the pharaohs or something. That's loosely what I remember from history class. Is that wrong, Wyatt? Is that very wrong?
Give me a second. I want to make sure that I'm right before I say
Okay.
something.
Okay.
There's something
'Cause
in Egyptian about the sun dies every day and is resurrected.
Yeah.
But I have never heard that about sleeping.
It might
don't
be
even
a
know what history
pharaoh.
class.
Might have been
I've
a
never heard that
pharaoh.
about a pharaoh.
Really?
Anyway, well, Wyatt does some frantic looking up of things. So I don't know like where to go from here. Like this is just like it's really we're talking about this because one, it's interesting, and two, it's happening so close to home for us. Like right up the road. Not really, but like
I mean,
not even
yeah,
an hour.
it was
like
just something weird. Not weird,
not even
but
an
like
hour out.
yeah, it's just
Maybe
like
an
something local that happened that we were just like, you know what, that'd make up for a decent topic. We're not expecting this episode to do super well, but you know,
You never know.
I mean, you never know.
It's just something interesting to talk about. And it's funny to think about, like, maybe she'll get sainthood, like, in our ancestors' lives, maybe.
Descendants,
not ancestors.
Ancestors came before.
I'm educated.
You're educated.
Um,
You shake your head.
I showed you the video I've been singing all day. Like, I'm not. So, where do we go from here? Let's do you
Talk
have
about
anything-
Nacho Libre sainthood.
No, hold on. So what I can find from the Egyptian beliefs about sleep and death is that death is like sleep, but sleep is its own
Okay.
thing. Because that sounds like what I've known. That like there
Okay.
certain ways of burial would
Okay.
be very similar to like a bed and headrests
I
and
just-
burials, the role of the sun and beliefs about the afterlife. There's a linkage between the world of dreams and the world of the dead.
Yeah.
And there's a whole thing, and like dreams are oracle pathways to the gods.
Yeah. I just remember some
in kaiju
some teacher in
What?
history class said something
Moon.
like that,
Oh.
and I was just like, okay, that's fun. But I can't remember what year it was either.
We would have only been learning about Egyptians in our district for like 2 different
Well,
years.
I also just did Western Civ, so
Well, yeah, but even the Western Civ class that I came out of, they didn't really touch on the beliefs into that much depth.
yeah.
I got like the
Even
bare
in world
minimum.
history, I don't even feel like we talked about the Egyptians for as long as we should have.
Yeah, no.
The Egyptians are
Understandably, the Egyptian
nuts.
kingdoms lasted a very long time. To, like to put
maybe
that in
it's just
perspective.
my bad memory, but like I feel like we just glanced over them in our world history class. Like we were just like, the Egyptians test. Okay, let's move on to this thing.
Once again, in the defense of public school, it's because Egypt is a whole thing.
There's
Like,
what if the,
Cleopatra was born closer to the moon landing than she was to the creation
of the
Great Pyramid.
Yeah,
That is a big span
that's
of time.
like that's.
We can't find
Closer to
remaining
the
mummies
iPhone.
from the Egyptian Old
I
Kingdom.
think it's cooler that it's like she's closer to the invention of the iPhone. Like she was
I think
closer
the
to
moon
having a
landing's
super
a bit more.
computer in your pocket. Honestly, like what they had, but this is more technologically advanced than what they sent people to the moon in.
Well, yeah, but going to the moon is like a.
Oh, dude,
There's only 7 people that have done it.
I think they
That's
only
probably who
sent people
all
to the
of
moon
them.
with 4 megs of RAM.
No,
Like,
we're
that's not-
sending
like,
people to the
dude,
moon again in like soon.
Really?
Yeah, the whole Artemis missions.
Yeah.
That's like a whole thing right now.
Yeah.
They actually tested one of the rockets that they're wanting to do not that
Maybe.
long ago.
Do you think people will say this moon landing's fake?
I swear to God, it's. I love when people are like, it was computer generated. It's, have you seen Transformers Beast Wars?
I really want. You know what I want
that
them
came
to
out
do?
in the 90s.
I want them to take a flat earther and put him in the rocket and watch his brain
Yeah, but Wyatt, Star
melt.
Wars came out in the 70s.
Yeah, and they used cartoon animation and stop motion.
Yeah, but Wyatt,
That
If they could do it
is
then-
a sounder argument than saying computer generation.
Wyatt, if they could do Star Wars, they could do the moon landing.
They also didn't do any outside space shots other than ships in space, and they used a blue screen, and it was black.
But Wyatt, stars.
That doesn't.
I don't
I
believe
was
it.
gonna respond to Connor, and it's been lost in the concept of Star Wars.
You know, I don't believe that. I'm just giving you a
I
hard
know.
time.
We also have to make sure that the flat earther is physically fit enough to go into.
I asked my buddy.
Orbit.
I told the people I work with, and not even my buddy. Like, I was like, I will go into debt for the rest of my life to send you on these space tours they're doing.
Oh yeah. Gary has
I work with some
Gary has a
flat earthers.
coworker.
Do we want this?
I-
On, do
at
we
an
want this on the
airport.
air?
Co-workers, and it's not that I don't like them. They're both good people. It's just that I like to sit down and have conversations with them, and that's all I'm going to say on the matter. I just like to hear their takes, and sometimes I'll get a little frustrated, but I just walk away from the thing, being like, the conversation, being like, man, I really just had that conversation. And that's all I'm
Good
going to
Wyatt.
say.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember my train of thought from earlier. We've got Nacho Libre on the list, and I looked him up and lost that train of thought. I'm gonna go back.
The real
to that.
Nacho Libre
Yeah,
or
the
Jack
re-
Black?
the real-
Nacho Libre?
the real guy,
Not Jack Black. Nacho
Not
Libre?
Jack Black.
not
Not
Jack Black. Frey Tormenta.
Was the real Nacho Libre a Mexican wrestler?
This is a picture of him.
Was he a hero like Nacho Libre Jack Black version?
Yes, he raised actually a lot of money,
Yeah.
and like before a reformation of currency in Mexico. So this was like the equivalent of millions of dollars.
What did he like?
Holy crap, he's still alive. So he can't be a
Nacho,
saint.
Nacho
can't be a
Libre's,
saint.
Nacho Libre is
What are his
alive.
miracles then?
78. Well, no one's prayed to him as far as I know because he's still alive. So the miracles can't work. But possibly speaking, as far as I know, like if he's lived his whole life to be a part of a church, and yeah, he is a Catholic priest who supported an orphanage for 23 years as a Lucha Libre wrestler, While performing, he wore a red and yellow mask and would use the name Fray Tormenta.
He's 78. He's not even old yet.
Sergio Gutierrez Benitez?
1940. He was born in 1945. What a time to be born.
Right? And then he represented as Jack Black.
Great year. When did the movie come out?
It was like, oh, Lord, what year?
2002.
He is only 5'10".
Yeah, only. I mean, that's pretty tall for normal people. It's taller than one of the people at our table here.
Fuck you.
2006. So he was so good at what he did, he had a movie made about him before he even died, which is hard to do.
Right.
But
that alone is like pop cultural.
yeah, like it takes a lot.
Amazement.
It takes a lot of. It takes. You have to be a pretty special guy to have a movie made about you before you're dead, and then to still not be dead. How? So he's 78 now. Someone do the quick math. How old was he in 2006?
I got nothing. You act like I can do math. We've had this conversation.
He was 61. Quick math. He was not even like he was just getting to grandpa age when they made that movie about him.
He made only sporadic in-ring appearances in the 2000s before retiring completely from wrestling in July of 2011.
He was making he was making wrestling appearances in
the
his-
2000s.
In the 2000s. So he was in his 50s.
Yeah, yeah, like that area of like 50s going into 60s.
That's fun.
But he still wears his mask even in his duties as a priest. But yeah, his name was Friar Storm.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Will Nacho
I'm-
Libre be a saint?
I don't know. I'm kind of curious if he would.
Are people gonna pray to him? I would.
I'll become Catholic just to pray to him.
God damn.
I want him to be the patron saint of Lucha Libre.
You got to put his
Why,
photo
you're
up
one of the
on the
least religious people I know.
I
You'd
will
convert-
pray for
you'd-
Lucha Libre. Do
I
you
will
understand
pray
me?
for Lucha Libre. Do you understand, Wyatt?
This has been my backup for if life goes wrong, is I'm going to become a luchador. Step one is I have to learn Spanish,
So I
though.
was just gonna go become a prostitute.
That also works. Probably more lucrative and easier. Well, I shouldn't say easier.
Or I found a WWE sign up.
It's worth trying. I think it's worth trying at least once. People try their whole life to get onto Jeopardy, for God's sake. What's it wrong trying to try out for being a wrestler? One of them might be more lucrative over a long term.
That's
We
where
can-
The
we
Rock
can-
got his start.
We can
That's
pray
what
The
I'm
for
Rock,
saying.
the highest paid actor in America, got his start in the WWE. And I have the size. I feel like they'd see 6'7" on my sheet and just be like, okay, we need to just see this kid.
You're going under the name Andre.
I'll be Andre the Mini Giant.
Andre.
Because there's people in WWE who dwarf me, including Andre the Giant, who was like 7 foot something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we don't understand. Like we think I'm big, but like
No.
people are big.
There are
than
bigger
me
people.
on this earth. Like way
There
bigger.
are always bigger fish.
He is the 16th child of the 17 children his parents made.
So he's the second to last baby.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's like the worst place to be because you're old enough. You're not the baby of the family, but you're old enough for everyone to forget you.
You have a child that's literally like you have a sibling that's literally 16. Depending
What's
on
it to you?
how often they, got at it.
What's wrong with being older than yourself?
Think about it. There's not a step parent. These are the same two people.
Well, so my great
To
grandpa.
me, that changes things.
My great grandpa was, I think, either the oldest or he was one of the oldest of 13. And
How do you pop that many babies out?
well, this is back when they needed people to work
Yeah,
the
this was-
farms.
yeah.
Like it was my great grandpa. I think
got-
he was born in
yeah.
1920 something.
And it also makes a difference depending on what
In
part of the country
Missouri.
you were born in.
Yeah, he was in Missouri. It's not like he was
Like,
in
I've
New
got-
York for the roaring 20s. Like he was.
I've got West Virginia family. I think my my mama was like one of 8, I think.
All I'm saying is that there's so many Monigs still in Missouri that I'll never meet and know, and that I'm somehow related to.
It's crazy. But I can't find anything that says that this guy that would point out that this guy was like a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Who, Nacho Libre?
Yeah. Actually, just now. At age 22, Gutierrez, at the time a drug addict and alcoholic, became interested in the priesthood and was inducted into the Piarist's order. His theological training took him to Rome and then Spain, and for a while he taught philosophy and history at the Roman Catholic universities in Mexico. He later became a secular priest in the Diocese of Texcoco? I don't know. When he founded an orphanage named La Casa Hogar de los... I can't pronounce the rest of that. De Fray Tormenta. I can't speak Spanish. The C word in the middle of that.
Cacoros.
That also sounded not right.
Cacoros?
That sounds like you've got a throat thing going on.
Cacoros de Fray Tormenta? La Casa de Hogar de los Cacoros de Fray Tormenta. Yeah.
Okay. Can I have my phone? Which would serve as home for the home of 270 children in need of money, and to take care of the children, the friar became the masked wrestler known as Fray Tormenta. 1991, French filmmakers made a movie loosely based on his life, The Man in the Golden Mask. Yeah, and then it gets into Nacho Libre and then so on. So technically speaking, I don't know if he would qualify for sainthood because his whole life wasn't, dedicated to the church and so on. At 22, he was a drug addict and alcoholic. But that's kind of like the point that you kind of figure out what you're going to do with your life anyway.
Yeah,
like
at 2 years old, you're not. Like 2 years old, your life is not dedicated to the church.
Yeah, you have no concept of what a church is.
You're chewing on your freaking shoe. Like that's not.
So I think that there's a chance that this dude could be up for the bidding of sainthood one day.
I mean, how many people are going to pray to him?
There's going to be a lot.
A whole lot of
people.
Mexicans in Texarkana.
There's going to be a whole lot of people that they're
maybe all
as soon as they hear that he dies,
Jack
there's
Black
will
pray.
saying
Jack Black will pray to him.
Is Jack Black Catholic?
I don't know if Jack Black is anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
think he just takes life head on.
I think he's going to pray to himself.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't already. The man
Dear
is
Jack Black.
He's got way more power physically than anyone ever anticipates. And he says it's because he has a switch and he knows how to control it. And it's like, that is the most impressive thing I have heard from him.
What do you mean a switch? Like a physical switch?
Like a mental switch.
Like, if he's not on the clock, he's just bringing it down. But as soon as he's, like, on the clock, he's, like, got all this energy. And people are like, I don't know how he does it. He's, like, a 50-something-year-old man.
You gotta have to. You gotta have that in that type of field,
But he's the reason that he's that age in that type of field, is because he knows that there's a difference between being on the clock and off the clock. That he didn't fall into any kind of major drug addiction that led to him dying, 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So he's like a dying breed.
And I mean, the dude obviously still knows, hey, you can have fun, but like, he knows the difference between Jack Black the character and Jack Black the dude, which is
and even then,
great.
His character is still a fairly
Jack Black
the
is still
character
down to
breaks
earth.
down in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like he's still like a really down to earth dude.
Jables and
what's up? What's Jablin Jables?
You got like the Jablinski. There's a whole lot of different ways that he breaks down into like a character, and like whatever it is that he does for acting is still a fairly decent person.
I was watching this interview where they were all playing Mario Kart for the Mario movie, and he goes, "See, the thing that people don't know, and I guess haven't seemed to notice yet, is that all my characters are just me." like he's like, "What did you do to prepare for Bowser?" And he was like, "Nothing,
literally nothing." And it's the same thing over and over.
I did me for Bowser,
and I think that's fair.
I mean,
but you can tell a difference when he's doing a Tenacious D thing, a YouTube thing, or
a Jack Black thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you have people who do the same thing every time that we still love anyway, like Seth Rogen. A lot of people don't like Seth Rogen. Adam Sandler.
I think Seth Rogen's a more interesting one-trick pony because it's not
Than
high-pitched
Adam
and
Sandler?
Frustrating. What Adam Sandler actually is like really talented.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Really
It's
talented.
insane.
He's a really talented actor.
When he
He
tries.
just chooses not to.
Yeah.
He literally has the opportunity to.
Like,
Yeah.
He has the money to do
Uncut
it. He's
Gems,
just like, nah.
one of the it's
Did he
Uncut
win an
Gems is
Oscar for
phenomenal.
Uncut Gems, or did he win an Academy
He won
Award?
an award, and
He
I
won
don't remember. An
a
Oscar
lot
is
of
an
awards.
Academy Award.
Well, I meant not to say Academy Award. I meant to just
Like
say
Golden
an
Globe,
award.
like, an award. I don't know
Like,
what it was, but I know that his speech was like, "You will be forever known as the guy
Yeah,
who
forever-
lost."
yeah.
lost
I think
to
it was an
Adam Sandler."
Oscar.
Like homie's talented, truly, but I mean, if you have
He's
if you
doing the
have
best with his
if you have a
Hollywood
shtick,
friends.
if you have a shtick and you stick to your shtick, and you still make money off said shtick, then you're fine.
Yeah, don't fix what isn't broken.
I mean,
This is a weird way that this
has
episode's going.
Has he had
but-
the course correct after, Jack and Jill? Yeah, but like.
Oh, it wasn't even Jack and Jill. It was the Ridiculous Six. That was the one where it changed.
Yeah.
Jack and Jill, a lot of people hated it, but Ridiculous Six was the moment of like his next thing was like his next big thing was
It was
Uncut
not an
Gems.
Oscar.
I just remember the only
Yeah,
funny.
what was the award though?
I don't know.
The only funny part about the Jack and Jill was Al Pacino's freaking Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Well, apparently
The
that
whole
basketball
thing with Al
movie
Pacino
that
was
he
kinda
did
funny.
recently was really good.
I don't even remember the name
Hustle. It was really good, and like he got nominated for an Oscar, I think.
of it. Really?
Um,
I have a lot more respect for him than I did before. Even if I don't like all of his movies as a person, for his career and how he's committed to his career, I have more respect for him.
Yeah.
Independent Spirit Award for Best Male Leading. Best Male Lead. Best Independent Spirit Award for Best Editing. Independent Spirit Award for Best Director. Oh, and the New York Film Critics Award for Best Director.
This episode's definitely gone in a direction I didn't expect.
The miracle of the Jewish man, Adam Sandler.
Well, it's all where the conversation goes, man. Like we just ADHD brains go in
Yeah.
weird directions. What else can
And
we
not
talk
in a
about?
squirrel way either. It just takes a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well-
like we've got all these things that like people can be qualified for sainthood and all this type of
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, the real life Nacho Libre could possibly one day be.
A saint. You think
Once
he'll wear
again-
his luchador mask in heaven?
I hope so. I hope when they make paintings of him and votive candles and all those type of things, I hope it has him in his luchador mask because that's really how he's done most of it.
Yeah.
He's been a character, which makes me curious if does that make a difference?
Oh,
Because technically it's still him,
it's still him.
but would he be canonized under his wrestler name of like Friar Storm?
I don't know.
I think that's how people would know him. I can't pronounce the word. It's hard for me to pronounce. Colloquially.
Colloquially.
That. I can't pronounce that word. It's hard to get out of my
Colloquially.
monkey mouth.
Colloquially.
But yeah, I think that's how he'll be known, and I think people will pray to him.
Yeah, but I doubt that
The
they'll
question
do
is
his.
if
I
he'll
doubt
be-
they'll do his first name. I mean, I doubt they'll do his wrestling name. I bet they'll just do his actual first and last name.
Right.
Because it's kind of like serious.
It's a real thing. But I think people are going to refer to him though as Sergio.
Santo Tormento.
Saint Storm has a nice name to it.
Saint Storm.
And I'm just saying, I'd pray to a guy known for slamming people in the ring.
You just want to live through that.
It's really funny.
You just want to slam people in the ring.
And if there's someone
What would
that
your
you can
wrestler?
pray to,
What would your wrestler name be?
I don't know. I have to find out.
Would it need to be appointed to you?
I don't know how it works, to be honest.
Well, what
Do
would
you come
want
up with
to
it
be?
your own? Or do you do something and it's like a fighter pilot, like the joke from like,
Fighter pilot.
like what was it on
Whoa.
Big Bang Theory? Like there was the joke of just like whatever
Your
instant.
call sign. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was a Big Bang Theory thing.
No, I think there was a joke because when Howard goes to space, he ends up being
Oh,
called like
yeah.
Fruit Loops.
Yeah, Fruit
And then
Loops.
someone's
instead-
like,
he
yeah,
wants
it's
to be
kind of like
Rocket
whatever
Man.
you're known for being a screw up for.
What would be a good?
Casablanca is your or queso blanco. the white cheese
Yeah, there would probably be something white
because you're
because I'm white. Does
A
that
white
mean it's
refrigerator.
white refrigerator? Someone find
Um,
what a refrigerator is.
refrigerador.
Nope.
White gorilla.
Isn't refrigerador?
I have no clue at all. I don't know how to pad out this time so that way it doesn't sound like we're scraping for minutes, but like we're just looking things up to make sure that we know what we're.
Refrigerador. I'm not the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took Spanish for 5 years.
Yeah, the white refrigerator.
Um,
Then you could just throw. You could have the
Just have a
the
refrigerator
cold,
door.
Refrigerador
The cold
blanco.
slam is what your
The cold
social move
slam.
would be. And it's just you just holding them and jumping off the top rope on top of them.
No, it's slowly falling over on top of him like a refrigerator. Yeah, there's no eagle jumping. There's just slowly falling on top of people.
I just imagine you, Gibby, like, Gibby! And then, like, just falling onto no
You just
one.
hear, like, white refrigerator in Spanish jumping off of a rafter.
And then becomes a giant fist.
Would be refrigerador blanco or is it refrigerador?
I have no idea.
Blanco refrigerator.
No, because the adjective comes after.
I'm gonna look
El
up something.
refrigerator Blanco.
That was the widest way you could have said that. But okay.
I know. I always I have a buddy named Caesar, and he'll be on the phone, and he'll be like, "Por qué?" And I'm like, "Por qué means because." Like, just like trying to make him laugh. Like, and like I'll get like one out of every 10 words that he says, and
Just choose one.
yeah.
You just
Start
fucking,
saying
just fucking
stuff.
Dora him.
Yep.
That's great.
Oh God, what was I? Gonna look up?
Mochila means backpack.
Yeah. Like, and like he like.
Biblioteca means the library.
He usually always laughs because he's usually it's usually his wife calling, and I'm friends with his wife too, so like he'll usually be like, "Gary's just being stupid," and I'm like, correct.
Videojuegos is video games in Spanish.
Can you puede salame un sandwich? That means, can you make me what? I didn't even hear it.
I think that's what makes it funny.
Gorilla.
It's just one L.
Gorilla.
That's the difference between English.
Gorilla
White
blanco.
gorilla says Google.
The white gorilla. As the white gorilla
Yeah,
enters the ring.
there's a lot of cognates. Like it's.
I
not-
mean, it's probably because there just wasn't a precedent for a word existing at some point, like
Yeah.
the term milku in Japanese.
Yeah.
What is milku?
I want you to take a wild
Is
guess.
it milk? Oh. Or is it the other thing?
Milk.
It is milk?
Yeah.
What did they call it before?
I don't know. But apparently milku exists as a term, so I'm like, you're telling me that there's no way that like
They
some
didn't have, like,
Japanese
goat milk
dude that
or
didn't have
something?
like
Or some kind of milk?
there had to have been some term before milku.
They have milk themselves. What do they call the stuff that came out of them?
I don't know. Penguin's a business goose. I don't know.
It's a business goose. Yeah, it's a business goose. I forgot about that.
A business goose?
Business goose. You think I'm joking? The Japanese word for penguin is the combination of business and goose.
He's not. He's really not.
That's awesome.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Give me a second. I have to find it.
El business goose. You know what they call cancer in Spanish?
Business goose.
You know what they call
In Japanese.
You know what they call penguin?
That's just what this gave me. I know I've
Penguin?
seen a different one symbol thing.
You know what they call cancer in Mexico?
El Cancer.
El cancer. Sorry, sir, I don't speak Cantonese, but I did take 8th grade Spanish class. So, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? Which literally translates to, I don't associate, motherfucker. What? Turn your phone up!
No.
Is that business penguin?
Yeah, business goose.
Bigness, big.
That's what I just typed in. Once again, does not prove that it's correct or anything. Google is just a very
I'm pretty sure
horrible.
it might. I'm pretty sure it's business goose or tuxedo goose or whatever. In some language, I don't know if it's Japanese.
No, I know for a fact because I saw a meme the other day and it just kept going on about Japanese words and it's in English.
I think we're out of time. We're out of stuff to talk about for this week's episode of the podcast. Thanks for coming around for a weird. Thanks for coming around for a little weird one. We just want to talk about it since it was local and since it was
literally
interesting.
up the road.
But yeah, thank you all so much for watching this week's episode of the podcast. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Please make sure to like if you haven't already. Please make sure to go over to Spotify and check that out because we are over there now.
Wyatt, what's the secret word?
Gower.
Gower. I figured you'd bring up something in Japanese, but okay.
No, it's just going to be Gower.
Okay, Gower.
Gower, Missouri.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in 1,500 years when Wyatt becomes a saint.
Bye-bye.